squirrel protection. All right, I know that's way overkill on the cameras, but still, it'll be fun. Let's go. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot. I didn't even tell you guys what we're doing today. So here's what this video is about. Of course, you did just read the title. Over the past 12 months, my primary camera for all my action shots has been this, the Hero 7 Black by GoPro. It's been a good camera, but it's definitely had its flaws, so it's time to upgrade. The question is though, to what? So today, I'm gonna be looking at two different cameras, the GoPro Hero 9 Black or the Insta360 One R. Which one does it better for me and my style of vlogging, my style with my channel? We're gonna try to answer this question right now. And here they both are. The one on the left is the GoPro Hero 9 Black. The one on the right is the Insta360 One R. And so what we're gonna be looking at out here in the wilderness is how well it does with stability, how well the lighting is, how well it picks up all those things. And we're gonna really see which one we like better. We'll also be taking a look at how it sounds out here, which is regular talking. But first, let's take a look at some stability. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm right now in front of this really kind of steep downhill with roots and everything. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to line them up both in front of me. We're gonna run down the hill and take a look at their stability. They both should be very good. They both have really well-made stability controls. So let's go. So as you can see as I'm running down the hill here, that the differences are minimal. Both cameras look like they're just floating, even though I'm bouncing and jumping all over the place, moving all over the trail. And you can see that the cameras are all over, but it's just, I don't know, it's good. Next, we're gonna run with them out of the end of their sticks, facing straight at us. Let's go. Next, let's take a look at how these screens look from the back. Now, the GoPro obviously has a much bigger screen, and you can see as we turn around that it's very responsive. And the one on the right is a much smaller screen, but you'll see why here in a minute. When we spin them around, the GoPro does have a viewfinder, which is kind of great, and you can actually do that with the One R as well. What you have to do is first remove it from its case, pop it out, take the base and battery off, then you just detach it like this, spin the camera around, and now the viewfinder is looking directly at you. Snap the case back on and you're good to go. So this is what's called a modular type camera, and this lens can actually be swapped out, and we'll do a little bit of that here in just a minute. First, let's move on to taking a look at how it looks through this specific lens, then we'll compare it to some others. Now, the Pacific Northwest is full of colors, so we point this out here at these different scenery. You can see the difference in the color patterns of these two different cameras. Both of these cameras are currently set at 4K and 30 frames per second. We'll mess with that here in a little bit. Now, both of these cameras are capable of 5K. The GoPro comes being able to do 5K, as well as the Insta360 is able to do 5.3K if you first swap out to a different lens. And before we start swapping out lenses and comparing different types of things, let's first do an audio check. So here we are. So this is an audio check out here in the wilderness, testing 1, 2, 3. This is an audio check testing out here in the wilderness, testing 1, 2, 3. This is what the stability looks like looking at me while talking to the camera, vlogging without any kind of audio help or setup, just walking through the woods, talking to two different cameras, well, actually about 4 at the time, feeling quite weird and strange, hoping no one's looking at me. This is the audio inside my car on the GoPro Hero 9 Black. This is the audio on the Insta360 One R. This is what the audio sounds like inside of my car. I'm sitting with the cameras mounted directly in the center of my car above my center console. I am sitting about a foot to the left of the GoPro and about a foot and a half to the left of the Insta360. So next up, I'm gonna just walk away from the camera like you're creating some kind of a shot of walking through the woods. Now, both of these cameras are sitting on tripods mounted facing straight forward. Watching me come walk through the woods, both currently recording on 4K. How's it looking? So now here's those exact same shots of me coming down the hill, but this time they're in 5K mode. Well, the GoPro's in 5K, the Insta360 One R is in 5.3K. So, any difference? Notice anything? So now each of these cameras certainly have their own strengths and weaknesses. For example, the GoPro Hero 9 Black is a lot more convenient from the standpoint of just grabbing a camera and going. It's got a much bigger view to see on the back, much easier to get through all the settings and control it, and you get a nice viewfinder on front and back at all times. Whereas with the Insta360 One R, you either have the front or the back, you don't get the option for both, and the screen is much smaller. Also, in order to mount this to a tripod, you must have it inside of a case, whereas you can see with this one, you have a folding down portion of the GoPro that just sort of makes it easy to attach it anywhere without needing a case. However, I would recommend having a case because it provides stability, as well as you can hook up other things like external mics and such things like that. Oh, and if you're wondering what this thing is right here, this is the Insta360 Go 2, my favorite little camera. Just tap and go. It's a little magnetic thing. Awesome little camera. The audio is pretty good on both of them, pretty comparable really. I mean, if you're gonna really nitpick it, there might be one better than the other, but to be honest, these are action cameras. We're not really comparing them to a studio mic setup. I found that the battery does last a little bit longer on the Insta360 One R, probably because it's just maybe bigger, I don't know. But it seems to be a little bit longer, but it's still pretty good on the GoPro as well. And of course, they're all easy to swap out. So as long as you have extra batteries, that's not really an issue anyway. So if you just simply wanted a camera to slap on your chest and smash down a hill, well, you might choose the GoPro. In fact, you'd probably choose the GoPro every time. But if you're a YouTube creator who's constantly looking for ways to make your videos more exciting, more interesting, have more depth, more creativity, more cinematic view, all that kind of stuff, well, this is where the Insta360 One R pulls away, and pulls away fast, because this is not just an action camera. In fact, right now with the current mod, it's a very high quality 1-inch sensor mod attached to it. It can do indoors, it does great 5.3 quality, it has stability at 30 frames per second, it does a lot of things, but it starts to go even further than that. So what we're gonna do next here is we're gonna put together a 360 mod. Yes, this camera can also be in 360 mode, giving you unlimited amount of creativity. So let's do this here. So we're gonna take the camera, snap it in just like that, so you can see the viewfinder. There's a 180 lens right there. We're gonna put on the base / battery, slide it inside its case. Now let me show you what this thing can do. Now when you're using a 360 mod, it's really cool because you don't have to worry so much about where the camera is looking. In fact, you don't have to worry at all. All you have to do is have it in the vicinity, and you can pick the shot later in post. One thing Insta360 has is one of the greatest editing apps for post editing, and we'll show you that here in a minute. So as I'm walking here, I just have the selfie stick over here to my left, over here to my right, and I can pick if I want to look behind me, in front of me, beside me, straight down at me. I can put it really high up in the air, and it looks like a drone is following me from way up beside the trees. I mean, how cool is that? You can look down on the little GoPro mounted to my chest, which is my GoPro Hero 7 that I'm using to just record my audio here with, and I'm getting so many spiders in the face. And one of my favorite shots is this right here. It's where you take the selfie stick and you just rest it on your shoulder and walk through the woods. It's super cool. Well, you can walk anywhere really, and it just looks like someone's following you with a drone above your head. You can turn the camera around all over the place, pick your shots after, look behind you, look in front of you. Doesn't really matter what you want to do. Super fun, and allows you to get multiple clips from the exact same shot. Similarly, you can point it at the ground like this, and it gives you the shot like you're flying through the woods. And with the stability you have in an Insta360 camera, you just can't beat it. So here I am running. As you can tell, I'm out of breath. Running and talking is not that easy, and it looks super cool like you're flying down here through the woods. Now, one thing about the 360 cameras is that there's no end to the frame. So because of that, you don't get any camera shake. You cannot beat the stability, like I said, of a 360 camera. So for someone who's in the business of making creative videos, doing adventures, having a 360 camera, I think is an absolute must. And why this camera pulls away from the GoPro, because I've only had to bring 2 cameras. I just gave a couple different lenses for this one in my bag, and it completely changes how this whole video turns out. Another spider. The rise into the treetop type shot, which is always an awesome shot. All you do is just raise the camera up, and the 360 camera will do the rest. You just choose what you want to see and post. And one of my favorites is just walking with the stick fully extended and just running the stick through branches and trees and bushes while you're walking. Just creates a really cool effect, like you're just kind of floating through the woods. Now, one thing that you might have noticed that's a downside to 360 cameras is the quality is just certainly not even close to the same as a single frame type shot. And that's because this camera is recording in 5.7K, which is incredibly good for a 360 camera, one of the best out there, in fact. However, that's in a full 360 degrees, it's getting that 5.7K. So each little frame is a lot lower. So when you single it down to that single frame that you want, it's maybe 720 to 1080 at best quality. So you have a little bit of a trade-off there. But you know, when this is a B-roll camera, when you're adding something into your shots you already are taking it with other cameras, it's perfect because you're never going to beat the creativity. So here we are out in this field we just came to, getting close to heading back to my house, and you can just see the power of the 360 mod. built into this camera. So you got the 4K wide angle mod, you've got the 5.3K 1-inch sensor, then you have this 360 mod allowing you to pretty much do whatever you want with this camera, which yes, the GoPro may be easier, yes, it may have equally as good stability, it may have a better interface on the camera just because the screen's bigger, easier to use. However, you just cannot beat the creativity you get with this camera. So no, this is just my opinion, but for me, going out on just a hike like I just did there with the woods, capturing the scenic views, having the creativity, for me, the winner there is going to be the Insta360 One R. We're going to do a few more tests here in a minute, but on a hike out with your family, just capturing shots, and then again, having the ability to swap out the lenses for different things you want to do all on that same hike, it's kind of cool. Now, if you don't need all that, and remember, you do have to pack those other lenses, you're probably going to go with the GoPro. The main reasons for that being that the GoPro is just a little bit easier to work with. It has a much bigger screen to work with the different settings on it. You can get those preset settings on it, which is really convenient. You have the back and front camera, so you can easily switch it back and forth like this without having to swap out mods or flip over different parts of the camera. So from that standpoint, it works. But for a creator like me who is always trying to get an extra angle, different shot, make my videos look a little bit different than the next guy's, this guy offers way more versatility in that regard. But there were a few things with the Insta360 camera that were slightly annoying to me out there. For one, I need to be able to just press the record button while the camera's off and have it turn on. In a recent update, they did give this the ability to do that, and they say to hold it for a couple of seconds, it will turn on, and half the time it did, and half the time it didn't. So a few times I had to re-record shots because it just simply didn't turn on. Well, I guess I should say it turned on, but it didn't start recording. Now that's probably my fault. I probably just didn't hold it long enough, but with the GoPro, all you have to do is just tap the record. You don't have to hold it. You can't really do it wrong, and it instantly starts recording every time. So there's definitely pros and cons. This one is very much tailored towards simply straight action. Really nothing else. Just get out there, press it, record your shot, get good stability, get good quality, press it again, turn it off, and you're done. Over here, we got all that creativity side. Now let's get into something different. Right, now, since this video is all about which camera am I going to use as my primary camera, and as a creator, I'm always looking for ways to make my videos more creative, watch what happens here with these two different cameras doing something as simple as washing your car. Look at this. Right here is the Insta360 One R. Right here is a 10-foot long selfie stick. It's not 10 foot now, but it will be. Watch this. Now watch what happens with this kind of a shot like this. Because the camera is able to be in 360 mode, I can constantly circle and change and have it follow me as I'm walking around and do all kinds of weird crap. And now take a look at the GoPro. So now both of these cameras have a time-lapse mode, which is pretty standard for any camera nowadays to have. However, the Insta360 One R has the ability to do something called a time shift, which looks, well, very different. Now, if you've been around my channel a while, you know that 90% of my content is all based around my Tesla and what's going on with the Tesla, getting multiple shots inside and outside with my Tesla. And for this, I need to be able to create all kinds of awesome shots to keep these videos actually somewhat interesting. So you can see here that I pulled some video from a recent review I did on the One R, showing you all different sorts of things you can do with each of the different modifications. And you can tell it's just a lot of fun mounting it all around the car, on top of the car, beside the car. Here's some different frame sizes with the camera, and then I also threw in some more tiny planet type shots with the Insta360 camera because it's just a lot of fun to add a little bit of character into your videos. Slow motion on these cameras are both pretty comparable. The GoPro does record at 120 frames per second at 2.7K, where the Insta360 One R was recorded at 2.7K at 100 frames per second. So you can spend hours, as you can see, trying to figure out which camera is actually better. But at the end of the day, you really got to feel comfortable with which one you're going to grab and take with you. Which one's going to do everything you want it to do and just simply work. Both of these cameras record in 4K. Both of these cameras can record in 5.3K, although in the Insta360 you do have to buy that 1-inch sensor to do that. Both cameras can do slow motion, both cameras can do time lapse, both have incredible stability, both have pretty decent audio, and if that's where it all stopped, it would be a real hard toss-up for me personally. But as you saw from the video, you have a lot more versatility with the Insta360 camera, and so because of that, my choice is going to be to grab most of the time the Insta360 One R. Now, of course, you can buy the GoPro 360 camera, but now you're buying two different cameras, and that's a lot more expensive. The GoPro Hero 9 Black on its own is just $400. and to buy what's called the twin edition of the Insta360 One R, where you have the 360 camera plus the 4K stabilized wide angle lens, it is $479. So for that extra $80, you get that 360 lens. So to do that on the GoPro side, well, it's a lot more expensive. Plus you have to carry around 2 different cameras, 2 different batteries, and you can kind of see where I'm going there. Also with the Insta360, you get their shot lab, which is where I was able to do that time shift and move the camera around in the air. So like I said, for me, most of the time, I'll be grabbing the Insta360 camera and running out the door. I just don't have to worry about ever not having the right camera if I grab that one. Don't get me wrong, the GoPros are great. They've always been great cameras, obviously. Most people use them. But for me, I kept having a lot of issues with my GoPro Hero 7 Black. I would finish recording an entire take in my car, and then the audio just simply wouldn't have recorded to the camera. Oftentimes in the middle of my recording, the camera would just stop recording. After doing some research, I found that this happened to a lot of people. It's pretty common with the GoPros. Now, I've been using the Insta360 cameras now for around 6 months, and so far I haven't had that happen. Don't get me wrong, they're not perfect. They do have their little kinks here and there, but I think for now, I'm gonna be happy using the Insta360 cameras. Now, I know a lot of you out there were just like me. You've got an older action camera and you're trying to figure out which one you wanna upgrade to. There's more in the market now. A lot of people are comparing these 2 cameras because they're very, very tough competition. I'm curious, after watching this video, after watching what other people are posting out there, which one is your favorite camera? Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Well, this video has already ran too long already. Thanks again for watching. Make sure you subscribe for future videos and hit that like button for me. All right, see you guys on the next one.